Welcome, everybody. We are back for our 2023 unpopular opinions in CCGs. And man, have we got some stuff that's going to upset people.
Yeah.
So we have 6 things on our list, and I think all of them are going to be pretty unpopular. So
Yeah.
the first one I have on my list here is the CCG market is oversaturated. There are too many products, too many games. There are not enough players, there are enough collectors. I mean, I see it with Magic, which released like 12 sets this year. I see it with Lorcana prices dropping. I see it with dead CCGs. There's just too much stuff out there. And there's not enough people that care about this stuff to buy it all. And that's my hot take. Andy, what are your thoughts here? Do you kind of agree?
Yeah, I think with Magic, they between all the secret layers and the 5 different versions of each booster box that you can buy and commander decks and all that kind of stuff, Magic is just nuts. And then, yeah, I mean, you got Flesh and Blood pumping out sets, you got Lorcana, you got Sorcery, you got Alpha Clash, you got all these games that are just hitting the market, and you're just who's buying this stuff?
Right. You've got the Kickstarters that are finally going to ship after you paid in 2021 and you forgot about it. And you're like, oh, that was $90 and now I'm getting a starter set. There's just too much stuff out there. And I think that this isn't just CCGs. This is also board games, right? Like the number of board games I have that have sat on a shelf that I haven't even Wingspan. Got it for Christmas last year. Haven't even opened the damn thing. But it's just here it's a beautiful game, but there's just too much to play and not enough time. And this might be the perspective of a guy with a 4-month-old, but there's just not enough time for the amount of product. And there's also just not enough interest, right? I think Flesh and Blood, I mean, you're not talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. There's so many products. A friend approached me the other day and said, I really want to get into collecting a game. What do you recommend? You do a whole YouTube channel. So I was like,
don't.
That's why I almost sound like, I have a bar of gold and then look at the bar of gold once a month, and that might bring the same satisfaction.
It's the same thing, right? Open up your binder of foils is the same as looking at a bar of gold.
Right, and the bar of gold you can at least liquidate at a local whatever shop somewhere. Yeah, instead of having to explain to your relatives that I swear to God, this is a really good binder. I've said this before on this channel. This is one thing that's lovely about collecting is the personal aspect and how that you actualize the value of your collection because you know how it's organized, you know how it's put together, and that's really special. But it also means anytime I have people over to my house and they see my wall of card binders and they're just what's in this? I'm no, that one. Let me take it out and unzip it. It's it just gets old, man. It's my house should not be a museum.
Yeah. You're continue to acquire there.
Yeah, I'm continuing to acquire. So that's number one. CCGs, TCGs are oversaturated. And this leads to number 2 is many games, new games will fail. Whether it's the new Star Wars trading card game with the goofy art or Lorcana, I know, oh my God, I said it. Or the 650 Kickstarter games that you forgot you put money towards. Many of these products will fail, and we will see them on these dead CCG groups in 3 to 5 years. And it leads into the first one. There's just so much product out there. And there's also not everything needed to be a game, right? Not everything needed to be made. I actually think Flesh and Blood is maybe not doing super hot. I don't think it's quite headed to out of print land, but stuff fails. It's part of a cycle, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're probably going to run their course of a few years. So stuff that really launched in 21, 22, probably give it to 2025, 2024, 2025, end of 24 or into 25, sometime then. But yeah, you'll see a bunch of this stuff start to fall out of favor, or even something that kind of is successful now, like Flesh and Blood. I gotta imagine they're gonna do some kind of a second edition or a revamp of the game or something. Maybe, I am really amazed at Lorcana that they pumped out a second set, and it was like, oh wait, nobody can still get the first set, but now everybody can get it all, and like,
Yeah.
anybody who was into it like either lost all their money trying to scalp packs at $9 a pack when you could just like wait 4 days and buy it off an Amazon dump for MSRP. And I'm assuming it'll go below MSRP at this point as more product, because they're going to release another print wave of the first set in like the beginning of January. And it's like, there's no way that this is going to hold at $145 a box. Like, this is going to 115
Yeah.
and lower. And like all these other Kickstarter games, like, come on.
I 100% agree, and that's maybe good for play, but I think there's people that sat and bought a box for near $400 like in October, right? Like 2 months ago, man. It's pretty rough, and this is a video I want to make later. But CCGs follow this 3 to 5 year trend where they typically get a reboot after 3 to 5 years. So for Star Wars CCG, it was Special Edition. For Lord of the Rings TCG, it was the Shadows set, right? Where they kind of get a soft reboot. For Star Trek, and a little bit longer, but they did a second edition. Because usually the rules after 4 or 5 years are so convoluted, and the interactions just don't work after 15 sets, that you need to do something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Magic has kind of done it a bunch of times by also just banning cards, or but that will need to happen. Or
Versus System did it. WoW TCG did it. I'm sure that there's a list of other games that have gone through something similar, or they just completely died. Like they got 6 sets out, and then that was the end of the game.
Yep.
When they would have rebooted. So yeah, it's going to be a tough year or year and a half for like a lot of games, I think.
Yeah, and this isn't even tracking with the economy. Who knows if it's up, down, whatever. But I just think that like there is too much product, and that will lead to some rough launches. Like, I don't know anyone that's into this new Star Wars game that's supposed to be coming out.
No one.
I wish it well. But let's move on to our next one here. The next one I have on my list is card grading is overrated and niche. I feel like I'm part of like 3 graded group chats that are going to hear this, and I'm going to get like yelled at for saying this out loud. But I'm sorry, guys. Like, unless you're grading for yourself, there is no value proposition in grading a card to try to flip it on eBay. Like, this is not 2001 grading a shadowless Squirtle or something to try to make a $10 card, $100 card. There just is not that much of a market. This is not sports cards, right? And
I think with grading, like PSA, really just dominates that. And if you're grading anything other than PSA, you're either doing it because you like the way that particular slab looks, and you're going to keep that as part of your PC. But even then, like, at some point that you're going to cycle that out of your collection. It's just inevitable, whether it's next year or 6 years from now. And so like getting a HGA custom label, sorry, Kyle Mullins.
Love you, Kyle.
Why would you do that? Just get a PSA, because that's just going to be the market leader. But then like you just sitting there and you're like, a PSA 8 is roughly the same as like a raw graded card. Anything lower than a PSA 8, why? Unless you're just like not good at picking out the cards to grade because there's scuffs or marks on it, and it's just like, well, in that case, don't send anything for grading because you know what you're doing.
Right.
So like you need to get at least an 8 just to be at what you would have got out of a pack, or out of like somebody who's claiming they have a near mint card, right? On which is never near mint. And then like, so then that pushes the price of like actual raw cards down, like those retrace, because it's a whole weird like financial aspect to it. And then like a PSA 10 just like going like crazy with the price, and it's just like, well, I don't know, like, do I want a 9? Do I want a 10? Do I really want this? Like, yeah, in the sports card world, you want to get stuff graded because it can also be authenticated for like autographs or like patch inserts and stuff like that. But you're your random trading card from the year 2000. Okay, man, you got it.
Yeah,
It's all you.
and I mean, I'm doing a little graded collection right now where I'm trying to get a PSA 1 through 10 for fun. That's fun. That's like a little thing, but I don't ever plan on like selling them, or I recognize it's niche. I think it's sort of fun. It's actually been really hard to find a PSA 2. It's like no one, because no one's submitting crappy cards. So, shout out. You have a PSA 2 and 1. I am looking for, I really want to get Milo, the Cyclops, as a PSA 1. I might just like run a card over with my car to like get the card to see if they would. But okay, let's move on to our next one here. So that was the card grading is overrated and niche. The next one I have on my list is I'm sorry to tell you guys this, but most people don't care about what you collect or your mail days. I'm guilty of posting a mail day because you're excited to go collect the mail, but it's just recognizing the hobbies that you do are, not mainstream, which is one thing that makes them lovely and personal. But you're going to need a lot of explaining to explain to somebody why you run a YouTube channel about games out of print for 20 years and how you've done 250 videos. I mean, maybe that's just me, but like, I just, it's one of those things is no one really cares. And so collect for yourself. Don't collect for value or for storing value. Just collect because you like the stuff, I think.
Yeah, I think collecting, it's one of those like very personal, almost like esoteric things where it's like only I know the exact order that these cards are in this box and why I have them in this box versus a different box. And like you can't really share that. Nobody really cares. Like, I don't really care that I put all my foils in the orange binders and my non-foils in the black binders, and that, it's like, okay, whatever, right? Collecting is ultimately like a personal journey, I think.
Yes, it is.
So the mail days like feed into that. It's like, great, you got some cool card that you've been hunting for like 3 years. Well, I haven't been hunting that. But what I do think, I'll put a silver lining to this so that this whole video is not completely just negative. But the silver lining to
funny, Randy. People like
negativity. I know. But the silver lining to this is that you can still, even though collecting's like a personal journey, nobody cares what your boxes or binders are, or the order that you put them in, or what type of sleeves you put them in, or this or that. But you can still be uplifting and be like, hey, great job, dude. You found this card that you were searching for 3 years. It doesn't matter to me. I don't really care, but like, you do you, and I'm glad for you that you found fulfillment in your life. So yeah, that's my silver lining to this whole video. But yes, nobody cares about what you're collecting.
I mean, the amount of posts that I've seen in groups where it's like, hey, my grandpa died and he left me these cards, and the thought of this grandpa, carefully aligning the 9-page sheets and putting them in a binder and organizing it, and then his like 22-year-old grandson's like, what are these worth? And it's like, that is the future that awaits all my stuff. It's like my kids have eventually just been like, what is that? My dad had this crap I found. Is it worth $50? I'm like, no, it's worth $50,000. But like, no, I'm dead now. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I think about that a lot. So if this is just a note, if anything happens to me, please contact Andy Talaga for my collection. He will be the steward, like the steward of Gondor over here.
Same.
Okay. The next thing I have on my list here, and once again, I don't mean to be negative, but you will never play things as much as you think you're going to, whether it's a board game or decks. I mean, I bought the new Lord of the Rings Magic Commander decks because, like, oh, these are cool. I played them once, and I sleeved them all up, and it was fun. I'm like, but the fact is, like, we are at a stage in our life where it's much harder to carve out a night for games than it was when we were in our 20s. And I've checked out the demographic of the channel. We're all in our 30s and 40s here, guys. It's okay. Like I got the demographic. I got the data. right? Like you will just never be able to play the games that you think you're going to be able to play. And if you do have that time, there's going to be a competition and a tension between why we're not playing Ticket to Ride, which we could have our girlfriends and spouses or whatever play with us, and why are we playing a out of print CCG from 2000 that is actually kind of wonky when you play it. Like, why are we making that choice instead of Settlers of Catan, right?
Right. Yeah, I have a good buddy who, played Magic with for 2 decades, right? And, once like maybe roughly around like 2018 or so, we just like stopped kind of playing Magic, but we would still like hang out and we would just end up going to see a movie. But like, you get all these games and, I have a lot of games. I got a lot of cards. I got decks for like 15 different games and cubes and all sorts of stuff. And it's always like, oh yeah, like he and I are going to play this game one day. And every time I go to see him, we never play a game. We just end up catching up, talking about, the new Star Wars TV show, or go to see a movie, or like do something other than actually play a game. Right. Or like talk about all the games that we're going to play in the future and never do it. And it's just like, but like, so it really just kind of feels like it's a justification to like have them, because it's like, well, one day I'm going to do this, but like, I know in deep down in my heart that one day is just never going to come. And
I'm not gonna. I'll never forget that. Andy came to visit me here. He hung out at my house. It was super fun. Where we're gonna play all these games, and we ended up just like hanging out. Like we play. I was like, "Do you want to play Conan?" I have some Conan made decks. Hold on, let me get the 14-page PDF out. And it's like, no, I don't want to spend my finite amount of free time going through a PDF for a new game to learn, and like rules are janky. It's like, oh, this card was errated, but I didn't. Don't use that one. It's too much. I agree. To me, these games have always just been a mechanism and a vehicle to bring people together, a reason to escape your house. And it's been more about the preservation than the play, right? It's been about building the deck, not actually utilizing the deck. When you get to play the game, it is fun, right? I have some decks built. I'm ready to go. They're kind of broken decks. That's the other thing. You choose to make broken decks. You're like, oh, this is good, right? You're not choosing to make a crappy one. So a lot of times it's not even fun to play against you, right? It's like, oh, this deck is going to be super abusive, right? Like, oh, I'm looking forward to this play session with your abusive deck. So.
Yeah. The other thing I think is it's a window into the golden past, right?
Yes.
Like, I remember when I was a kid and I was 16 and we played this game with my friends and we'd stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 nights a week, playing and drafting and building decks and talking strategies and stuff. And it's like, I don't have any time to do that anymore. But it, like, looking at the cards or owning them or thinking about the game, like when I'm driving to work or something like that, or recording a video with you talking about like a deck tech that we did for a Death Star 2 deck or something. And so it's just like, it just brings back, it's like that Christmas feeling. Like it just like brings back joy of like being a kid again. And it's like, I'm just never going to have that. So this is my window into the past of like, I can reminisce on this and have nostalgia, but I'll never get that and I'll never live it again. So, yeah, one day I'll just end up dying and my cards will end up on a Facebook or, TikTok group saying, hey, what are these things worth? They're going to get, gas money for this. I'm like, oh my God, I spent
It'll be battery charging money at that point, Andy, right?
I spent so many years amassing the world's greatest Star Wars CCG collection. Don't just sell it for gas money.
Life is fleeting, my friend, as well as that feeling, that golden feeling. It is also fleeting, which is why you continue to collect and you can, whatever. It's like the mail day feeling. It's like getting stuff. You're like, oh, it's supposed to be right today. I'm so excited. You open it and you're like, oh, this is great. It looks in good condition. But that feeling lasts for like 2 minutes. And then you put it away and you're like, okay, it's safe. Okay. And you're like, oh, no,
I will not look at it. I won't even breathe on it.
Right. Okay, I got one more here. This is a bonus one. I thought I put together
All right.
five, but I have a sixth one here. And this is going to be a real popular one, but your cards are just not worth what you think they're worth. When you put, I'm sorry, man. Like just because there was one eBay sale for one card does not mean that your 3,000 cards are worth that amount. Like nobody seems to think that their time is valuable, right? Like if you're going to sell a collection and you're going to spend 10 hours on it and you're going to sell it for $200, you just spent 10 hours, right? Like minimum wage where I live is $15 an hour. Like you could have just gotten a job at like the local grocery store and gotten like a similar amount of money, not have to deal with like going to the post office, which is, I mean, all these things that build in time, whether it's mailing labels, post office trips, arguing with people over price, PayPal disputes. Like it's just the list goes on and on.
Somebody says this card's light play. One person says it's slight moderate play, and you sit there and argue over two specks of white on the back of a card, and it's like, no thanks, I'm not going to put the time into this. But this card sold on eBay for $39, yeah, and then the seller got raked for 15%, and then you're going to try and sell it, and there's been 4 copies that have sold, and one sold for $27, right? And like, if you want to sell it, you're probably going to have to sell it for a little bit under that, because I can just sit there and wait on eBay with a saved search until one shows up for $25. So you want to sell it to me for 24. Well, the last one sold for 30. Okay, dude, you keep it then.
I will just say this as someone who's sold a decent amount over the last 2 years. Guys, your time is valuable. Please, please, like, stop giving up your Saturdays to like put together a Google Sheets with every single card in like a 5,000 card collection that it's just not worth it. Like bulk sell it, like pull out a couple highlights. You know, you got a Vader or you got whatever these cards, give me $100 for the collection. That 10 hours you're going to spend putting into a spreadsheet is just not worth it. Like value your time more, people. As we talk about life fleeting and you've listened to this video for 22 minutes, just value your time more highly. Like there's, you'll never get back these 22 minutes, guys. I'm sorry. But I just see this a lot where I think everybody thinks that their stuff is super valuable, and of course they think everyone else's is not. But
or if something's sold, like I hate the Meteor Impact that sold on eBay from Japanese Hoth 3 years ago for like $1,800 or whatever, and it's like, now everybody thinks that their card's $1,800, and it's like two guys got into a bidding war 3 years ago does not mean that everything is this price. Just move on with life. Honestly,
I 100% agree. And just because your cards are not worth what you think in a monetary value does not mean that you can't appreciate them, you can't like collecting it. That's not what I'm saying. I just think there's a little too much. Everyone thinks that their cards are liquid, and inherently collectibles are not. They are illiquid assets. They are not something that you can sell to the average person, right? Without, I mean, even locally, unless you're prepared to offer a significant discount, like this stuff isn't liquid. You need to go to specialty markets, whether it's Facebook or eBay, and you're just selling to like a circular community, and many times, and you might just be buying that card back in like 2 years. So just keep that in mind as well, that your stuff's not worth what it is. Financially it may not be worth it, but doesn't mean it can't hold a special place in your heart. You're talking to a guy who spent a metric, I'm trying to decide if I want to swear on the channel, boatload, let's say, of cards, and I enjoy them. They bring me lots of satisfaction, but I recognize that the value I can get from them is probably not what I put into them, and that's okay, right? And I'm fine with that.
I'm in the same boat.
Okay, so that was all I had on my list. Andy, any kind of final thoughts here? We're closing out 2023. 2024 is another year of life.
Yeah. 2023 was an interesting year. I think everything kind of just flatlined for the whole year. And, we'll see what 2024 has in store. maybe we'll do a resolutions video at some point soon. You and me, we did one last year, and
Broke them all.
Really just broke them all, but really just enjoy collecting how you want to collect. But there's just a lot of risk with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One thing I've been doodling on, maybe we'll do a video, is like, I wonder if crypto prices go back up, if collectibles will follow them, right? I think Bitcoin's whatever at 44,000 or whatever crap. Like, I think that it seems like dumb money sometimes follows collectibles.
Good one. We'll have to explore that in another time.
I feel like that comment might have been that was the most unpopular thing I just said right there. So,
all right, so you got a bonus 7th out of this one.
Yeah, dumb money follows collectibles, myself included. So thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Good.
Have a great holiday, great new year. Bring positivity to it. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Okay.